The boss jock has entered the building. You are listening to the Sportcat Show.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. You have the one, the only Sportcat. I am here with you for the next 2 hours to tickle your ears and entertain, educate, inform, and, well, probably just do some whining. Come over and find us on the YouTubes. You can search out the Sportcat shows, join our chat. We have a great chat as always. Hello, Denise. Chris, I see you're in there. Hello, Chris. And I think we got some other people in there. Somebody go wake up Brenda. She was supposed to be in here today. So hope everybody's having a great day. And we are going to cover, well, we're going to do our normal thing. And then I almost want to say I told you so. Because it seems like we talked about this yesterday, how this was coming. How there was going to be days where we would have all kinds of craziness like yesterday. We had, 4 mass shootings in one day. Isn't that about right? So, yeah. So, oops, wrong button. Well, I can hit that button too. All right, well, let's see here. Good afternoon to New York. Good afternoon to Illinois. Good morning to Denver, Los Angeles, Anchorage, Phoenix, Honolulu, 7:08 in Honolulu, Sydney, Australia, it's 3:08. Good morning, London, 6:08, Brisbane, 3:08 a.m. in Perth. It is 1 in the morning. So goodness gracious. Good morning. Welcome to the show. I hope you're ready for a great show. So let's see what we got lined up today. You know, we always talk about a little weird world history before we do anything. Well, hopefully it didn't just close on my tabs. That would kind of suck. But yeah, we'd make it up as we go. So we talk about July 29th, historical events in the world. 1588, the Invincible Spanish Armada is sighted approaching England, and several skirmishes follow, forcing the invading fleet to make a long and costly retreat around Scotland and Ireland. 1609, Samuel de Champlain shoots and kills 2 Iroquois chiefs at Ticonderoga, New York, setting the stage for the French-Iroquois conflict for the next 150 years. 1848, the potato famine. Well, there was a revolt. Unsuccessful national revolt against British rule is put down by police. 1905, U.S. Secretary of War well, he was later, William Howard Taft makes a secret agreement with Japanese Prime Minister Katsura, agreeing to give Japan free rein in Korea in return for non-interference in the U.S. Philippines. How'd that work out? 1921, Adolf Hitler becomes leader of the National Socialist German Work Party. Yes, Denise, thank you. Chris has fallen asleep on the job. Yes, please hit that like button, share, and subscribe. And yeah, if you're in here, just say hello in the chat. They won't bite. Well, they may, but 1928, test footage is created for Walt Disney's Steamboat Willie. Wasn't that later banned? Today in music, 1973, Led Zeppelin has over $200,000 in cash stolen from a safe deposit box at a New York Hilton hotel. It's a lot of money back then. And in sports, in 1751, the first international prize fight, Jack Stack of England defeats challenger M. Petit of France in 29 minutes in England. Didn't last too long for a fight. Of course, I've seen them last even less time, so especially the UFC. And let's see. We'll look over here real quick. So Chris says that law-abiding gentleman should have done his due diligence and read up on the facts. Not only was he shooting indiscriminately at innocent people, but New York City has gun laws. Oh, yeah, we're going to talk about that in a minute, Chris. 1900, King Umberto of Italy is assassinated. He was assassinated by anarchist Gaetano Bresci. He was in power since 1878. His rule was marked by imperialistic and national policies. He was deeply hated by anarchists who first attempted to assassinate him during his first year in power. 1900. Times don't change. 1905, Clara Bow, the original flapper, is born. The it girl or IT girl of the 1920s is born in Brooklyn. Okay. Lord of the Rings is published 1954. I didn't realize it was that old. Wow, I really didn't realize it was that old. I mean, it's not old, but it's not today. At any rate, 1958, NASA is founded, established by Congress less than a year earlier. The Soviet Union had taken the first leap in the space race by sending a satellite called Sputnik into outer space. They were tasked with building out America's space program. They made history about a decade later, putting a man on the moon. 1979, Mama Cass Elliot dies. Don't know who she was. Mama Cass Elliot in London, England, at the age of 32, after rising to fame as a member of the Mamas and Papas. Okay. In the late 60s, she recently branched out into solo career, but she struggled with her weight and died in London of heart failure. 1976, Mickey Cohen dies. The mob boss who controlled LA in the 50s died of stomach cancer. In the 40s, Cohen was Bugsy Siegel's right-hand man. In the 50s, he would lead the LA-based Cohen crime family. Well, that's not good. Chris says, thanks for covering for me, Denise. He was asleep behind the wheel. Huh? I gotta hit. I'm muted. Why am I muted? How did that happen? I have no idea how that happened. That wasn't even on the right screen. All right. Let's go back to where we were, because apparently I was muted. How did that button get pushed? I wasn't even on that screen. I mean, that wasn't even open. It's crazy. I don't know. All right. Well, I'm back. I'm live. I'm crazy. So last I left off, I'll talk about it. Cheese and lasagna day. Why do you have those two on the same day? that makes no sense. So, I mean, that cheese and lasagna. Oh, good. Hold on. I need to hit the Mountain Dew because this ain't working today. We had a sick puppy. Not that y'all care about my personal stuff, but we had a sick puppy yesterday. And Mrs. Sportcat came home from work yesterday during the show and took the puppy to the vet. $400 later, she's given nausea meds and an IV. And they did x-rays. They found out she was a rescue. Let me qualify this starting off. She was a rescue from the next county over, the county I worked in, from a drug house. And during the course of yesterday's exam, they x-rayed her and they found lodged in her ribs, an old bullet. So she had been shot at some point in time before we got her. We've had her about, I guess, somewhere around 7 years now, maybe a little longer. So, yeah, so I was up early with a sick puppy. It's complicated. All right, so I'll go back a screen because I don't know where the hell I left off, and I don't even know what the hell button I pushed. So we'll go back a little bit here. Yes, Denise, she is okay. She apparently she must have just ate something in the yard. They said something about a mushroom or something. Apparently Georgia has mushrooms that dogs like to eat that make them sick. I don't know. Chris, it must be a big, beautiful, round mute button to get pressed without being on the screen. Agreed. How did it happen? I still don't know. All right. Oh, Chris, I asked if you had your lipstick on because it's National Lipstick Day. And then I said it's National Lasagna Day and National Wing Day. How could they possibly put these two together? I want to know if there is a chicken wing lasagna, and I will be asking Mrs. Sportcat about that probably tonight. And then we went into the cheese sacrifice day, and I'm sure that there's probably a protest somewhere out there because apparently the point is to buy a piece of cheese specifically to, quote, sacrifice by cutting and putting it on a mousetrap. That way you can rid your house of mice every year. Okay. I'm sure there's probably going to be some protests about that. And then it goes on down here and it says studies show that mice don't even like cheese. What the hell? When did that study come out? Nobody told me about it. So Sportcat should know if mice don't like cheese, right? Chris, Wendell, I don't know. She should be okay. Hey, KG, welcome. Yeah, so she should be fine, but it was kind of a shock to us. But the vet's like, no, that's kind of common in this area for dogs to be shot and walk around with bullets in it. I was like, well, she earned her gang stripe. That's for sure in the drug house. So that's where she came from. Nag a pack Panachimi Day. What the hell is that? We're just taking a sharp right turn. How it's the annual celebration, the 5th day of the Sharvan month in the Hindu calendar. It's observed during the Shakula Pashka. And please don't at me because I have no idea what I'm saying. The day is worshiping the snake gods for removing the astrological imbalances from life. People symbolically feed milk to snakes during this day, hoping that it will cure the imbalance and save the family from evil. Some people also fast, and they offer gift to those in needs. Okay, so if you own a snake, give it milk today. But my next question is going to be, do snakes like milk? I'm asking for a friend. I don't know. It's International Tiger Day. Just read a story about tigers. Apparently in Thailand, it's legal to own lions and tigers and sell them as domesticated pets. Now, herein comes the problem, because it's listed as a domesticated pet. It can be shipped according to TSA rules to anywhere in the world. So this is becoming an issue, apparently. Who knew you could have a pet tiger? I want a pet tiger. The Sportcat should have a pet tiger. It's National Wing Day. I would have thought that would have been in football season, but hey, what am I? It's National Rain Day. Wallace and Fatuna Territory Day. Congratulations on getting your territory. Please don't at me. I'm just having a day. All right, let's jump into something else that maybe I'll know what the hell I'm talking about. There's very, very little possibility of that happening, but Chris asks, do they leave the milk out with cookies like for Santa? You know, that's a good question. Wendell. It's not even National Hot Dog Day. Wendell, come on. You don't decorate your wiener if it ain't National Hot Dog Day. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, yesterday we did have some sad news. MLB lost a great giant, Ryan Sandberg. He was 65. Little known fact, he was the coach of the Knoxville baseball team. At one point in time, it is an actual Cubs minor league team, Chris. Or they were. I don't know if they still are. But he died July 28th. He was 65. Following news of his death, baseball fans wanted to know his cause of death and the details surrounding what happened to him. He had a long career as a second baseman for the Cubs, and he was a legendary player. He was a great player, yes. So his cause of death, according to the family in the Chicago Cubs, that they shared, let's see, keeping Sanders' family, it doesn't really say what his cause of death was. So, yeah, nobody knew that he had been sick. So apparently he died from complications from a battle with the C word. Ryan announced his metastatic prostate cancer diagnosis in January of 2024. He underwent treatment, including chemotherapy and radiation. And last December, he shared on his Instagram account that the cancer had returned and he had relapsed and it has spread to other organs. And he said, that means I'm back in intensive treatment. Will continue to be positive. He was married with 2 kids, wife Margaret Koneman in 1995. It was the same year he split from his first wife, Cindy White, according to Men's Journal. They had 2 kids, Cindy and Lindsay. Okay, they had 2 kids with Cindy. Okay, Lindsay and Justin. He didn't have any children with Margaret, but she had kids from a previous marriage. And although they did not go on to play baseball or professional sports, his nephew, Jared Sandberg, followed in his footsteps. Okay, I don't know anything about Jared, so hopefully he's a good player. All right, let's see. Yeah, he was pretty young. I mean, all things considered. So, yeah, sad news to hear that. All right, let's see here. We're just going to kind of skim through the debrief because there's a lot of stuff in here. Wendell, you can stay. Brenda, why are you leaving me? Okay, Brenda, here's how this works. Since you can't watch me, you can go to Yerg's Radio or Radio X in Australia, 2 of our great affiliates, and listen to our show. Allow us to tickle your ears if you can't watch. So if you can't watch and get in the chat, you can still listen and probably still message me and tell me I'm doing something wrong. All right, so yesterday we talked about gun violence. We talked about the threat is real. Apparently a gentleman walked into a Manhattan skyscraper unchallenged with an M4 rifle. Unchallenged. There are gun laws there. He should have known better. He was a local football legend, apparently. He was 27 years old from Las Vegas. His name was Shane Tamarua. All right, so he left behind a suicide note on the 33rd floor explaining that he had mental health issues. He had a brain disease called CTE, and it's a contact sport, traumatic brain injury, basically. And he blamed the NFL for it, and he tried to get to the 34th floor, but apparently he took the wrong elevator. So he shot and killed a police officer and a woman and 2 men in the lobby. But for some reason, and I'm just going to ponder on this one, he allowed another woman to pass him. I'm going to guess he was trying to conserve ammo. Just going to guess. because it didn't appear that he had multiple clips on him. He only had one 30-round clip. So another gunman killed 3 people and wounded 2 others before he was shot by police. This occurred while we were on the air in Reno. Apparently that was at random too. They don't have any reason to believe there's connection to the victims and the suspect still being investigated. And of course, they don't think that there's any connection between the one in New York and in Reno or the previous stabbing incident from the day before. Trump administration cut federal funding for gun violence prevention by more than half. Of course, this story would come out. It's got to be Trump's fault, right? So, yeah. I don't know. I'm sure there's probably plenty of people listening that have bang sticks, boomsticks sitting in a corner somewhere that haven't done any damage for multiple years. So it's got to be Trump's fault, obviously. Let's see. Yes, gun violence has grown more than 50%. So has mental health. All right. So we appear to have sent nuclear weapons to the UK, a first since 2008. This is caught by military aircraft buffs using some of the apps and things we show, flying from Albuquerque to an airbase in the UK city of Lakenheath. Okay. And apparently this was on July 17th. It was a C-17 Globemaster. And then you can apparently go see the flight track. It's interesting because most of the flights like that are scrubbed or they don't squawk. So, I don't know. We're going to talk about this in a minute. A secret space plane is heading back to orbit to test new technology. And Fort Bragg has lots of secrets. It's its own little cartel. It's a quote from the Fort Bragg Cartel, a new book by Rolling Stone contributor editor Seth Harp purports to reveal new details about a violent drug ring embedded in U.S. Army Special Forces and Airborne Corps. It has been more than 4 years since a pair of elite special operations soldiers were found murdered in the woods in Fort Bragg, and no one has been convicted of the crime. And that begins the lead in. I need to send that to a friend of mine. He has a little inside information on that. Let's see. A new tax law would lower rates for Lockheed Martin. Okay. I don't know if that's good or bad. The Pentagon is shifting $200 million to the border wall project in Arizona. ROTC cadet dies during training at Fort Knox. An airman was killed by an M18 pistol. He's 21 years old for Kentucky. Apparently it was the weapon's fault because they have stopped using all M18 pistols. Let's see. Donald Trump says he's given Russia about 2 weeks to forge some kind of ceasefire with Ukraine. About 2 weeks ago, he said he'd give him 2 weeks. So he's going on the second 2 week. He has a new trade. We have a new trade deal with Europe and vast amounts of U.S. weapons sales. And that's one thing we're pretty good at. We're pretty good at blowing stuff up and putting holes in things. Chris, exactly. We'll cover this a little bit more. The guy in his note pretty much pointed out that he was mentally ill and did it to draw attention to himself and his story. Mainstream media glorifying these events is more responsible than guns. Well, true. Let's see. And 2 incidents occurred in May of 2024. There were incidents. Okay, they were talking about sabotage operations. All right, let's see here. Lastly, 42 more U.S.-made Abrams tanks arrived in Taiwan Sunday evening. How do we know? Did they come out with a press release that says, hey, we brought 42 tanks today? We talked about this one yesterday, and I really want to lead off with this one here. Unacceptable. Cincinnati police chief says only one person called 911 during the attack. One person. We saw on the video how many people were watching and chanting and cheering and unacceptable behavior. Just one person contacted emergency responders as dozens of onlookers witnessed a mob of, quote, mostly black men pummel a man and a woman in downtown Cincinnati last week. We need to add in there an asterisk, a white man and white woman, and this is according to law enforcement. Cincinnati Police Chief Teresa Tichy proclaimed her disappointment on Monday after roughly 100 people stood by and either filmed, jeered, or did nothing to aid the outnumbered victims during the brawl. Video of the street brawl went viral online over the weekend. It's unclear what race or ethnicity the two victims are from the footage. Okay. Who the hell's reporting this? It's unclear. The Daily Wire. Well, Tim Pierce, you need to have your eyes checked because it's pretty damn clear they were white. And Officer Tatum, who's a black police officer, if you follow him, go check him out. He's pretty cool. He did a video on this and he called it. He said, this is racial crime by black members of society. So, yeah, open your eyes there. CNN later gets in trouble for this. Investigators are looking into the role alcohol may have played in the incident. Here we are. They're trying to look into see if bars could be blamed for this. See you, Brenda. I'm sorry you had to leave me. They're trying to see if bars could have been blamed for this, for serving too much alcohol. Okay, whose responsibility is it to not drink to the point where you are out of control? Raise your hand. That would be you. It's your responsibility. So they're trying to shift this whole narrative to it's going to be the bar's fault. You see the man thrown to the ground, but you can't tell what color he is, and pounded for nearly a minute before he's picked up, bloodied and unsteady, only to fall back to the ground. He's picked up again and helped away. A woman tries to shield him from further harm when a black man punches her in the face, knocking her unconscious. Representative Vivek Ramaswamy, who is running to be the next governor of Ohio, posted on X Monday that he had spoken with the female victim, and her name is Holly. It's unconscionable that there are no police present in that area of Cincinnati on a Friday night, or even an ambulance to take her to the hospital. Okay. Daily Wire, let me explain this to you. They got one 911 call out of the hundreds of people watching, and you suddenly expect an ambulance to be there. Let me explain how this works to you. If there's a large mob beating the hell out of someone, police go in, secure the scene, and then fire trucks and ambulances show up afterwards. So stop trying to push the blame on alcohol and lack of police. Do I need a police officer to tell me when to be good? I mean, granted, if you're going down the road and you're hitting 80 and it's speed 75 and you see a trooper up ahead, you're like, yeah, I better slow down a little bit. But honestly, do you need a bartender to say you've had too much to drink? Do you need someone to come out and say, hey, maybe you shouldn't punch that guy in the face? No, it's called responsibility. Something that this gang of thugs doesn't have, and society is trying to push it so that it doesn't show the blame on a certain community because, well, we have no outrage there. There should be outrage. In fact, there's a community in Arkansas that is trying to make itself an all-white community, and it is getting all kinds of hate, but yet there is a community of another culture that is exclusive to that culture, and the media is a darling to it. Please tell me there's not a narrative going on here. Please. I'm waiting. And I'm sure somebody will stitch me, or that's all right. I could use another hater. So I could use another hater. Let's see. We catch up in chat. Brenda, we'll see you. Chris says, but calling 911 and not recording doesn't get you paid nor interviewed by the media to use the footage to spin the narrative. Agreed. Now there is a mental illness, and I should have looked this up, that is associated with large crowds like this not calling 911 because it's not uncommon. So Brenda says she's going to leave the computer on for views. Well, thank you, Brenda. I appreciate that. Let's talk about race. CNN anchor Eric Burnett calls the New York City possibly white. What's controversial about that? Well, she's facing criticism for describing New York City mass shooter Shane Tomorrow as, quote, possibly white during a broadcast. Based on initial surveillance footage, the shooting at the Midtown Manhattan skyscraper that resulted in 4 deaths, including an NYPD officer, online reactions varied, with some very accusational ones. Well, she's facing the backlash after referring to the mass shooter as, quote, possibly white. Comes just hours after the deadly assault in Midtown Manhattan that left 4 people dead, including the NYPD officer. Critics have accused Burnett of making premature racial assumptions based on unclear surveillance footage, while others argues that the focus on race is misplaced in such a tragedy. CNN has yet to issue a formal statement in response to the criticism. What did she say? During a live segment Monday evening, she reported that police had described the shooter as having sunglasses, mustache, male, quote, possibly white, based on initial surveillance images. The images showed a 27-year-old Shane Tomorrow dressed in a suit and carrying a AR-15 style rifle as he entered 345 Park Avenue, the building that houses the offices for Blackstone and the NFL. The shooter's background, as per reports, while early descriptions included the possibility that he was white, images released shortly thereafter let many viewers suggested otherwise. They appeared to have darkened or ethnically ambiguous complexion. What the hell does that even mean? In fact, early NYPD communications reportedly considered the possibility that the gunman might be of Middle Eastern descent. A mugshot later confirmed his identity, but his precise ethnic background remains publicly unspecified. We're going to continue to have this violence until we come back together as a community, people. I can't believe that Chris Como and I actually said some of the same things. He's got millions of followers, and him and I said the same thing. We're going to continue to see this as long as the media continues to stir this damn pot. Comments drew swift criticism on social media platform where users accused her of jumping to, quote, racial conclusions without sufficient evidence. He may be a bunch of different things. Basically, anything but white, one comment wrote. Others took broader aim at her credibility, which posts like CNN should be shut down. They have not reported a truthful story in what seems like forever. Some pushed back against the outrage, arguing that the focus of the shooter's race was irrelevant compared to the tragedy. Really? You think? What happened? According to NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch, the shooting began at 6:28 when Tomorrow exited a black BMW and entered a skyscraper lobby with his rifle. He went unchallenged. No one saw him. You'd think in New York City, somebody'd say, hey, there's a guy with a rifle walking into a skyscraper, but nobody called 911. He immediately shot and killed Officer Islam, he was 36, before fatally shooting 3 civilians, a woman, a security guard, and an employee on the 33rd floor. One more person was critically injured. He later turned the gun on himself, ending the rampage. The controversy has reignited debates about how the media handles race, especially in high-profile violent incidents. Critics argue that race-based assumptions, whether intentional or accidental, can fuel misinformation or reinforce biases. Supporters of Burnett have pointed out that she was quoting early police descriptions and reporting in real time based on limited information. While the full details about his identity and motives will still be coming to light, strong reaction to her comments underscore just how sensitive and divisive racial assumptions in media can be, especially in the intermediate aftermath of a tragedy. Jumping to conclusions based on appearance on early footage does more harm than good, fueling public mistrust and controversy. Whether CNN chooses to clarify Burnett's remarks or stand by it, the incident has reignited broader questions about how news outlets handle race and responsibility in breaking news coverages. Okay, so we have a picture of this gentleman. No, that's the wrong word. We have a picture of this murderer. And We can't make any assumptions on his ethnicity, but we have another video in Cincinnati of two people getting stomped. It's plain as day, and you can't make an assumption on their ethnicity either. The media is failing us. The media is leading us to divisiveness. We need to get past this as a country, or this country is going to fail. Chris wrote, the bystander effect. If you're alone, you will help 80% of the time. But if you're in a group, you will only help 20% of the time because of the diffusion of responsibility. Yes, Chris, you're 100% correct. It is unspecified at this point. I know exactly what it is not. Agreed. All right, well, we'll stay with the violent shootings. 37 shot in at least a dozen separate shootings over violent 4 days in Atlanta. This comes from Atlanta News First. From Thursday evening to early Monday morning, 37 people were shot in 12 separate shootings in Atlanta. Edgewood Avenue felt the brunt of violence with 4 separate shootings over the weekend, including a mass shooting near a popular strip of bars. It's got to be the bar's fault. 11 people total were shot, among them 27-year-old Santos Wyatt, who later died. Grady Memorial Hospital said at least 47 gunshot patients have been treated since Thursday. The hospital accepts patients from all around the metro area. So if we look at this map where there's a drawing of Atlanta on a map superimposed with weapons over it, you can see that was the Buckhead shooting on a MARTA train. And this shooting happened in 400 block of Edgewood on Midway. What is the difference in color? Shot and killed. So I'm assuming, the black one is they've been killed, and the red one is they were just shot. I mean, not that's any better, but if you look on this map, this is pretty much the area I worked when I was a paramedic in Atlanta. Why when OJ was trying to escape, why did they say white Ford Bronco? Because OJ didn't have a chance to paint the vehicle. So it was a great description for what to look like. Almost like skin. Chris. I'm sure this video will get me added. I just have a feeling. Oh, well, I don't care. Why did my screen do that? Go back, wherever. I wanted to talk about this story. Yes, continue to the site. A deadly day. Can let me go with the story or not? Continue to the. You are about to. You know what? I'm done with USA Today. I'm done with you. If you can't have this story on here without me having to push too many buttons, I'm done with you. New York shooting. Devastating photos. City has come to terms with tragedy on its streets. Monday, the gunman opened fire in a Manhattan office building, killing 4, and apparently shooting himself in the chest. Let's see. The things we can take away from this. After the shooting spree, he was found dead with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. In a press conference, he left a note stating that he was suffering some CTE, a brain condition thought to be linked to repeated head injury and blows to the head. He also referred to his experience playing football and the player Terry Long, writing, "Terry Long football gave me CTE, and it caused me to drink a gallon of antifreeze." I'm not sure what that means. You can't go against the NFL. They'll squash you. Study my brain, please. I'm sorry. Tell Rick I'm sorry for everything. And I don't think they have identified who the Rick person is. So speculation puts the possible motive linked to the NFL, which the office housed, that same office, but they were apparently on the 34th floor. He got onto the wrong elevator and went to the 33rd floor, where he proceeded to shoot people, write a note, and then shot himself in the chest. That should tell you all you need to know if he shot himself in the chest. Officer Diadrul Islam from the 47th precinct was the officer that was killed. And we see here the murderer played high school football. I'm sorry if people don't like me calling him a murderer. Tell me what else I should call him. He wasn't a victim. He was a murderer. All right. Well, I can't get the next photos, and we're running behind. So let's just continue onward. Because this comes from 9 News Australia, and they talk about he was trying to. This is pretty much going to give us the same information. He pretty much had mental health illnesses, and he had battled these problems. He had had encounters with Las Vegas police, and he drove across country yesterday, entering a building unchallenged, and shot several people, including himself. Shot himself in the chest. And so he went to the elevator bank, shot a guard at the security desk, shot another man in the lobby, and then he entered the wrong elevator. He took the elevator to the 33rd floor, and apparently he wanted the other elevator to go to the 34th. A lot of people may not know, but when you go into certain buildings over a certain number of stories, they have even elevators on one side, odd elevators on the other, meaning even number of floors and odd number of floors. Some people may not know that. The father of slain NYPD officer Diadram Islam, who was killed in Monday morning's horrifying shooting at Midtown Manhattan office building, suffered a stroke after learning the news of his son's death, according to a report. News of the 36-year-old son's death rattled his family deeply, in addition to his father suffering a stroke after learning the news. His pregnant wife was rushed by police to the hospital on Tuesday morning, according to family members. They were all crying for their cousin Muhammad Manuel Islam. There is no brother, only him. The family is really feeling a big problem. His wife had the doctor's appointment. I heard one police officer from the precinct say that she took her to the hospital. His father went last night to see him. He added when he heard the message, he had a stroke. Feeling so bad, he had a stroke at the hospital. They did not release him. The report did not specify what condition his father was in. He was among 4 people gunned down Monday evening in the 345 Park Avenue office building when the violence rang out. Suspected, the murderer, Shane Tomorrow, 27, began spraying bullets in the lobby, killing Islam. Blackstone executive Wesley LePatner and security guard was also shot, but has not been identified. He then took the elevator to the 33rd floor, where he killed another person, identified as the Post as Julia Hyman, a 2020 graduate of Cornell University, who worked as an associate at Rudland Management. Officer Islam had been off duty from NYPD, working a private security job in the building when he was killed, according to authorities. He put himself in harm's way. He made the ultimate sacrifice, shot in cold blood wearing a uniform that stood for the promise that he made to this city, NYPD Commissioner Jess Tisch said. He died as he lived, a hero. Islam, a Bangladeshi, probably saying that wrong, and I apologize, national, had served for 3.5 years with NYPD's 47th precinct, according to Mayor Adams. Said he was a father to 2, and his wife was pregnant with her 3rd child. Mayor Adams met with the family on Monday and told them he was a hero and we admire him for putting his life on the line. He was a hero and we will respect him. All right. So let's go on to other stories. We'll try and... Chris says the former football photo did have a drastically different appearance than the photo with the weapon. Yeah. But he was younger and probably very carefree playing sports. All right, so this is an article that really gets me. Sydney Sweeney's American Eagles jeans is being hated by the woke mob. In fact, they're calling her a Nazi. Sydney Sweeney's American Eagle great, quote, jeans, spelled with a J, Jeans, ads, widely hated and condemned by the woke mob as a fashion retailer rejects identity politics and plays up to pure wholesomeness, traditional beauty, while risking possibly offending others for not being overtly inclusive. But should it have to be? American Eagle's Great Jeans, with a J, advertising campaign featuring Sydney Sweeney fled accusations of racism, exclusionism, and even allegations of eugenics and what many have decried as fake outrage. She rose to fame for starring in HBO's Euphoria in The White Lotus. She stars in the clothing retailer's Denim Fall campaign with the tagline Sydney Sweeney has great jeans with a J. The slogan is a clever play on words for Sweeney's great jeans with a G. Nevertheless, the blue jeans ad has been deemed to be offensive and discriminatory and subliminally implying everyone who is not white or blonde and blue-eyed does not have great jeans with a G. The underlying suggestion is that the jeans company is guilty of discrimination and has chosen to consciously exclude others, where in the past it would have made an effort to be all things to everyone, lest second prize contestant might feel left out and relegated to nothingness. But who knew a clothing manufacturer had to be all things to everyone? Surely an outlet has its, quote, core demographics it ought to be able to market to. In one clip shared on American Eagle's Instagram page, which acquired more than 1.1 million views, Sweeney stands before a poster of herself titled Sydney Sweeney has great jeans with a G before the word jeans is crossed out and replaced with jeans with a J. The nod towards jeans is also made in another video shared on Facebook, which further incited backlash from some users on platforms like TikTok, X, and Threads who accused American Eagle of promoting eugenics, white supremacy, and Nazi propaganda. Genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color, Sweeney says, before the camera pans up to her blue eyes. She says, my genes, with a J, are blue. Perhaps the fashion outlet, sensing the U.S. consumer had enough of this woke and identity politics and catering to a special minority of groups, has simply chosen to configure its marketing campaign to mirror that of the everyday girl next door. Sweeney's girl next door charm and main character energy, paired with her ability to not take herself too seriously, is the hallmark of this bold, playful campaign, American Eagle wrote on its website. The changing representation could be inferred to an implicit rejection of previous campaigns where marketers sought to rearrange traditional roles and symbols of past times when transgender heroines were used to pitch beer to great disaster, plus-size Barbie dolls, lest a great portion of the American population feels sidelined and offended. Try the campaign in Europe and see how it goes. Along with Hollywood production studio turning to females in superhero capes to market action thrillers, only to flop. Because at the end of the day, primordially, women look up to men and have since the Stone Age, and not the other way around. Even as much as we would like to imagine that all things can be fair and inclusive and equal. Presumably aware of the Great Fisher, its great genes with a G campaign has caused this to come this weekend to American Eagle. And there are many more comments, and you can find this. More woke stuff. Yes, traits are passed along between generations via genes. It seems that the woke, who question the knowledge of conservatives, selectivity. Boy, if they at me, they'll get some good outtakes. Scientific facts to push their agenda on a great number of issues. Do you think they would have complained if they used a woman in a 400-pound range? She makes me want to buy a pair of American Eagle jeans. I wonder how many of these complainers have, quote, blue hair. How dare she be a beautiful white woman? Chris says, those companies who shift from drastic positions to opposite side, depending on what political party is in power, are pathetic. Have the balls to have a moral stance and stick to it. I think it's a funny play on words, personally. I mean, if somebody had just showed me this and said, what do you think? I'd be like, she's kind of hot. And makes me want to buy jeans. But, then I would be misgynecalistic or whatever the hell it is, and a sexist racist something. I don't know. Just add some words that I would probably be. I don't know. So this one I've been following because I follow a lot of stories out of Pensacola. If you know me, you'll know why. It's going to be my beach retirement town. And this comes to us from Zero Hedge. And the headline is, of course, a Seattle cat lady wants to ban the Blue Angels. This is serious. The Blue Angels, America's elite military aviation stunt team, in its 79th year, may have met its match. A Seattle cat lady who says in a new lawsuit, the military jets traumatized her ailing cat to death. I'm going to read that again for you in case you're listening and you just drove into a telephone pole. A Seattle cat lady who says in a new lawsuit, the military jets traumatized her ailing cat to death. It's not just the cat lady either. Seattle climate activists took out a billboard in Seattle this weekend declaring, "Say no to the Blue Angels." The billboard depicts, this is a direct quote from Zero Hedge, so don't at me on this one. The billboard depicts two black people covering their ear, a Muslim granny shaking her fist, and a white guy with a bullhorn, a dog, and who can't even... Oh, God. The group made up of members from local climate groups, basically the Voltron of Soy, including radical leftist Extinction Rebellion, is planning to march and hold a rally August 2nd to protest the Blue Angels air show that weekend. They're raising their hands in protest of the Blue Angels military air show. Just say no. Cat lady Lauren Ann Lombardi has sued the Blue Angel officers in federal court, claiming that her sickly elderly cat was terrorized by the Blue Angels' state-sanctioned acoustic torture. Claims that the noise of the low-flying F-18 fighters gave the pet cat panic attacks, who had already been in critical condition due to worsening congestive heart disease, and eventually led to her euthanizing in August of 2024. So to be clear, the cat was on death's door and was voluntarily euthanized, but the Blue Angels gave the cat a panic attack, hastening its demise. Lombardi is pissed that the Blue Angels blocked her profanity-laced tirades on Instagram and is seeking a court order to unblock her account and prohibit the Blue Angels from blocking any other accounts on the basis of viewpoint, in quotations. As a cat, I can say I personally like the Blue Angels. Seattle cat lady sues the federal government over the Blue Angels causing panic attacks to her cat. Top of the hour, 2 o'clock East Coast time. I can't. 2 o'clock East Coast time, and I don't know what the hell time it is where you are, but we're glad you're here. We're going to continue on with some silliness before we get into real news. The Daily Mail reports that humiliation for Stephen Colbert as rally held to protest his show cancellation falls very flat. Yes, a rally organized to protest the cancellation of Stephen Colbert's flagship show fell flat with just 20 people showing up. There's probably more media. Organizers gathered outside the CBS Broadcast Center in New York on Sunday with fewer than 24 people appearing to protest. The group staged that quote, "We're with Colbert" protest as they called for integrity. CBS announced the comedian's decade-long run with The Late Show would end in May. New York Post spoke with those who had gathered, and one protester telling the outlet, "This is a First Amendment attack. We can't stand for that." Images taken at the protest show a small number gathering around the building, holding banners and placards, some which said, quote, "I'm with Colbert." Video taken at the scene also depicts the low turnout. CBS said the move to axe Colbert was due to lower viewership and a decline in profits. Well, he was losing like $16 million at some point in time. So they're saying that he was fired by Trump. Of course, it's Trump's fault. And Paramount is planning a merger with a media company, Skydance, and they needed the approval of Trump's FCC. Once again, Trump's fault. Critics have suggested that anti-MAGA Colbert had been asked by the network to grease the wheels of that deal. Merger clears the way for an $8.4 billion sale of some of the most prominent names in entertainment, including CBS, Paramount Pictures, and Nickelodeon. FCC Chairman Brendan Carr said the agency's review of the proposed merger was not connected to the lawsuit. Colbert gained a reputation as one of Trump's fiercest critics, departing from traditional late night in favor of overly partisan approach. Following the announcement of the Late Show's cancellation, Trump took to Truth Social to gloat over the news in a celebratory post. Absolutely love that Colbert got fired. His talent was even less than his ratings, Trump wrote. The merger's been approved, and they're going to eliminate all DEI policies. And apparently, if you're not making money for the company, here's a shocker, you're going to get canned. Doesn't it seem like if you don't make money and you are paid all this money to make money, you're going to get shit canned? Just saying. We have news from the Billboard that Nancy Pelosi attends Lady Gaga's Mayhem Ball with floor seats. She said it's the most fun she's had in a long time. Well, good for her. Nancy Pelosi is one of the most powerful Democratic politicians in Congress, but recently at a Lady Gaga concert, she was just another, quote, little monster. San Francisco representative put her paws up with thousands of others, fans at the pop star Superstars Mayhem Ball at the Chase Center, Pelosi's home city. As captured in videos online, one posted, she makes her way to her spot on the floor of the venue where she's got to watch Gaga's theatrical show up close. It was a fabulous show in San Francisco, Pelosi wrote, resharing a clip on X, the most fun I've had in a long time. Gaga spent 3 nights at the Chase Center before taking her tour to LA, where she's slated to play for 4 nights. Well, good for Nancy. Good for Nancy. I'm glad she had a good night out. I would think that she felt a little bit out of place, but music has a way of connecting everyone. And I can't say I dislike Gaga's policies, but I don't dislike her music. Chris says, FYI Colbert fans, if the show is that popular and you all watch, another network would be stupid to not pick it up. Well, when nobody does, you have proof of my initial statement is false. Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Yeah, I agree. This was trending on social media, and I didn't know the answer to this, but we're going to dig in deep. Who is Karrueche Tran? It's Deion Sanders' alleged girlfriend, an Emmy winner. She's also dated another former NFL star and a music celebrity. When Deion Sanders shared his 18-minute video on YouTube titled For Glory, produced by his son Deion Sanders Jr., footage highlighted Sanders' faith and resilience. They picked up on someone else in the room, actress and model Karrueche Tran. Throughout the video, Tran was seen offering comfort before and after the operation, even tearing up during emotional moments. Though neither Sanders nor Tran has confirmed the nature of the relationship, the footage fueled speculation among fans who noted their visible closeness. Sanders had previously delivered a rare bit of uplifting news at his Monday's press conference, announcing that he is now cancer-free, great for him, and he has had major surgery to remove his bladder. The Colorado Buffaloes head coach, who had been quietly battling bladder cancer, Mountain Dew time, bladder cancer, credited both faith and medicine for the outcome. I am pleased to report that the results from the surgeries are that he is cured from cancer, according to Dr. Janet Corregia, director of the Urological Oncology at the University of Colorado Cancer Centers, told reporter Sanders echoed her optimism. When we hear that word, it's usually a life sentence attached to it. He said, but not this time because God is with me. Well, who is she? Well, her appearance alongside Sanders sparked interest in her background. She identifies as a biracial with Vietnamese and African American roots. Does that even matter? She grew up in LA surrounded by a mix of cultures. Her career has been defined by versatility ranging from acting, producing to hosting and reality TV. 2021, she made history as the first Asian Pacific American actress to win a Daytime Emmy Award for the leading role in a daytime fiction for she played Vivian Johnson on the Bay. She earned Daytime Emmys in 16 and 17 as producers on the series. Outside of acting, she has hosted the BET's legendary 106 and Park Fuse's Sustainable Fashion Competition Upcycle Nation and MTV's Ridiculousness. That's cool. Her charm and quick wit have also landed her on appearances with Lip Sync Battle and Drop the Mic. All right. So he says he's going to remain focused on recovery, but I'm sure that she is being helpful to him. Chris in the comments section, I wish I could give a thumbs up to this comment. Pelosi was in Congress before music was even invented. I wish I could thumbs up your comment, Chris. Great comment. This comes to us from 7 News. An Australian teen. Hold on. Let me make sure what button I hit here because I hit the wrong button. Make sure I'm not muted. Okay, not muted. I've got a problem with buttons today. Australian teen pastry chef behind booming cannoli business is in a fight with Meta to get his Instagram account back. Said, I didn't do anything wrong. The young pastry chef with dreams of turning his fledgling dessert business into a full-time career says he feels helpless after a social media giant suddenly closed his account. Zufri Abdul, he's 18, has no access to his cannoli boss page on Instagram since July 11th, when he was told a video he had posted breached community guidelines relating to child abuse and nudity. The 16-second video in question included a compilation of clips of Zufi in his kitchen showing off a batch of his finished cannoli, buying ingredients, standing with other cooks, and running a stall. His post included the caption, "Cannoli hustling, not schoolwork." There was no warning. I was straight up banned. The distraught Sydney teen told 7 News. I appealed, but then was told to seek legal counsel if I wasn't happy with their decision and I wanted to take it further. Zufi disputes the video contained any abusive material or nudity and was perplexed as to why any action had been taken against him. The video was cross-posted to TikTok, and apparently they had no issue with it. He's been working through Instagram's online channel and even visited parent company's Meta Australian headquarters in Sydney, hoping to have the situation rectified. I knew I definitely didn't do anything wrong. I feel like my reputation is absolutely shattered. I'm trying to track down customers to reimburse them for orders I cannot fulfill. Zufi, who is fighting to get his account back while studying for his HSC trials, said the ordeal left 18 months of hard work in the bin. He is desperate to secure access to his account once again, saying the page has 1,400 followers, is vital to his small operation, and he felt helpless. And I'm Gen Z, and I'm always on social media. I'm hoping they will reinstate my account and issue an apology as well. He appeared on Channel 7's morning show and showed off his talents and revealed how he got his start. I fell in love with cooking during lockdown. He joked that a cannoli is my energy source when asked how he managed his booming business along with the studies. He is known for his cannoli tower, which is almost go-to instead of the original cake for customers hosting a big occasion. Well, we hope he gets his account back, but social media in international areas is having all kinds of problems. All right, let's go to Unilad. For the men who own the world's oldest burger from McDonald's, share what it looks like 29 years later. The pair have previously confirmed McDonald's is well aware of the senior burger. The two guys from Australia who have claimed to own the, quote, oldest burger on planet Earth have shared what the McDonald's staple looks like now, almost 3 decades after it was purchased. They say nothing lasts forever, but Eduardo Nitz and Casey Dean's senior burger could really give that age-old phrase a run for money. In 1995, the pair, then 14, headed for a night out with some of their friends. On the way home, they took a pit stop at a McDonald's. The story goes that one of the people and the lifelong friends were out with ordered, so they ordered too much food. Not being able to finish, the unnamed person asked them to look after his quarter pounder until he next met up with them in Adelaide. He said to hold on to this burger until the next time I come and visit, and he hasn't been to visit. Well, he's not a very good friend. 29 years later, he's kept his word, storing the ancient fast food item on his desk before moving to a special box that's been shunted between family members since 95. But what does the 29-year-old McDonald's quarter pounder look like? Well, you can see for yourself in the pictures posted here. Surprisingly, the so-called senior burger hasn't grown any mold like other aging food items usually do, with Nitz and Dean remarking that it was, quote, too old from old. We get a lot of questions, and one of these is, did you do anything to it? He confessed, we didn't touch it. We did nothing. While the senior burger may not look any different, it's no longer as pillowy, soft, and juicy as it would have been if their friend had eaten it almost 30 years ago. In fact, it's gone rock hard, with Dean's bouncing the historical artifact of a keepsake box just to prove his point. The pair, whose senior burger went viral for the first time more than a decade, claimed they initially caught the public's attention after making a Facebook page called Can This 20-year-old burger get any more likes than Kanye West? Then, of course, it exploded, and we ended up all over everything. We get sent fan art, so we got right into it. There's already a single on Spotify with Dean and Nitz confirming there's an album dropping soon. The pair is also in the middle of creating an artificially intelligence-powered chatbot so that fans can speak to the senior burger. One of my neighbors, turns out he's right into AI, so we're actually coding him up a personality so you would be able to talk with the burger as the therapist. What's the world coming to? This whole is pretty crazy, but it's legitimately an old burger, so why not? Redditors have been discussing the senior burger for years. One writing, surprise, no mold, even with preservative, can't imagine what it would do inside your body. I can see this burger is going to grave with one of them, one replied. Yeah, I can see that. Third replied, whoa, I totally forgot about the cardboard rings, which used to come around the burger. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. That triggered a deep, long-lost memory. I wonder when that stopped. When McDonald's asked if they had any knowledge of the burger, they replied, yes, for any FunStream media television show to cover our burger, they must first let McDonald's know. So apparently, if you have an old burger, you got to tell them. Tim Crow, an Australian nutrition scientist, an accredited practicing dietitian, had previously told ABC that the high salt content makes the burgers particularly resistant to decay. There are many better food choices for their nutrition than fast food burgers and fries, but there's nothing to be alarmed about such food standing the test of time and staying well preserved. When you're 14, Chris writes, when you are 14 in your life, buying a quarter pounder to hold on to for 29 years, you should explore a new group of friends or pick up a book. Good point. Good point. But hey, back then that was probably what, $1.29 at most. So that $1.29 is well spent and made him some money. So, all right. Delta pilot was arrested as sheriff's deputies and federal agents swarmed the cockpit of a Boeing 737 after it landed in San Francisco. Costa County Sheriff's Office named the suspect as Rastim Bagwar, 34, a resident of Florida. He was taken into custody after authorities received a report about sex crimes against a child. Passengers aboard the flight from Minneapolis to San Francisco posted videos online showing federal agents walking the aisles of the plane on their way to arrest him. They stormed the cockpit, cuffed the co-pilot, arrested him, walked him down the aisle, ushered him off the plane through the cabin doors located between first and coach, according to passengers. He was booked into the Martinez detention facility on charges of 5 counts oral copulation with a child under the age of 10. His bond is set at $5 million. The investigation has been described as beginning in April. Records show that he is licensed to fly a 737 to 500, and he previously lived in San Ramon, Texas. These seven people stormed the cockpit, cuffed the pilot, arrested him, walked him down the aisle, and ushered him off the plane through cabin doors between first and coach. And three agents come up the aisle to the cockpit and remove the co-pilot's luggage and personal effects. It was shocking and unnerving, claimed one passenger. According to the Department of DHS, the agency's officers were to aid the sheriff's office as part of an ongoing local investigation. DHS agents provided logistical support to gain access to the plane after it landed. Anyone who commits depraved crimes against a child, including U.S. citizens, will face consequences, according to DHS spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin. Delta has zero tolerance for unlawful conduct and will fully cooperate with law enforcement. We are appalled by reports of the charges for the arrest of the individual in question. He's been suspended pending an investigation, according to a statement released. Well, all right then. I'm surprised, being that they were in California, that they weren't posed as being bad guys for arresting them, because DHS was there. DHS was there because it was a plane. That's pretty much why. Had nothing to do with ethnicity. All right, so we're going to go back in time a little bit, because I've been studying this, and this is an American war that few people want to talk about. And I, in fact, didn't know about it, but the U.S. military is bombing the Horn of Africa, at least 32 strikes this year alone. That's more than double the previous years, according to Africa Command, and a sign of enduring extremism that is concerning Washington. Well, too few of us know about it and are discussing it. American forces, in cooperation with local government, has targeted ISIS Somalia 20 times and al-Shabaab 12 times between February and June. Strike cadence has surged in recent months, with roughly twice as many attacks in April and May as the previous 2 months, AFRICOM announced on posts on social media. The command reports 3 strikes this month on ISIS Somalia. So, did anybody know we were in a war in Somalia? I didn't. So, apparently we're in a war with ISIS in Somalia, and it's been called some of the largest bombing in years of another force. Interesting. Nope, didn't know that. And speaking of bombing, the U.S. Army conducts rapid missile tests in remote location amid World War III fears. This comes to us from Unilad. Let me catch some comments. Tim Crow should eat that burger if he's so confident in salt preservation theory. That's a good point. Yes, Denise, I did not know either. So I'm still doing some homework on it. The U.S. Army conducts a rapid missile test in a remote location amid World War III fears. Well, apparently we completed a high-speed test of fire and move tactics on a remote island in the Indian Ocean amid growing World War III fears. Kremlin spokesperson and military acts. Wow, let's try that again. Kremlin spokesperson and military expert Captain Vasily Dandikin accused European powers of mounting against Russia, sparking a debate that World War III could be on the horizon. Christmas Island is an Australian external territory situated in the Indian Ocean, and that's where they did the test. And that's where they're doing a lot of apparent secret tests. So we'll keep an eye on that. You can find that whole article, if you're interested, over on Unilad, talking about the missiles, capabilities, and tactics. I'm going to kind of skip ahead a bit because we're getting behind here. Space Force is going to launch its 8th X-37B next month. We'll cover this a little bit more later, but we talked about yesterday about secret squirrel things they're doing. Well, that's one of them. And if you're into trains, the Atlanta-based rail company Norfolk Southern is going to merge with Union Pacific. So that's big news, especially here in the South. That's going to be the largest railroad ever. So more details on that. It's the number 1 and number 5 North American railroads by revenue. And I don't have time for this one today, but we'll catch up to it later. My head is going to explode as for looking at these completely unhinged that people tried to sell on the internet last week. So yeah, we'll cover that one later because you need a good laugh. And let's see if FEMA has updated, because they hadn't earlier and they still haven't. So FEMA is asleep because last time I checked, it's Tuesday. All right, so we'll go into the National Weather Service daily briefing. National Weather Service is calling for heavy rain, flash flooding with severe storms up in the Montanas, the Dakotas, Wyoming, extending over to Iowa, Illinois, and Missouri, part of Wisconsin. So, and if you look down in Texas at the little border with New Mexico and Arizona, right at the Canadian-Mexican border, there's also some severe weather forecasts. So be prepared, be weather aware, because these storms in the Dakotas are fast moving and hitting hard. Let's take a current look at satellite, and let me zoom out a bit. We don't want our friends in Australia to feel left out. So currently in Brisbane, it is 54 degrees with a high of 72, partly cloudy. Canberra, you're looking at 38 degrees as a low with a 48-degree high. Whew. Hobart, you are expecting a low of 39 with a high of 51, and sunny. In South Australia, you can anticipate today being 43 with a high of 58, but it's going to be sunny. If you look up into Alice Springs in the Northern Territory, it is 42 to 62 as a high today. And get up to Darwin on the coast, and we see it's going to be sunny with a high of 88 and a low of 76. And then we'll hop down to Perth finally and see that today was a high of 62, sunny with a low of 43. It's cloudy and overcast on most of the continent currently, with the exception of Cairns. We'll get back to some more weather forecasts in just a minute. Let's see. These here are the tropical storms. We're not going to talk about that at the moment since we're running a little short on time. Let's look at the tornado cast. And we see that they're saying there's a less than 2% chance at all in the United States for a tornado today, but the high winds could be damaging in those areas that we discussed earlier. And that little front down in the south is pretty much going to hit the deep south all the way down to central Florida with some high winds as well. So be weather aware. There's a chance, it's not a real high chance, that the Dakotas could see some hail today. So it probably won't be large size hail, but you could see some hail. All right, let's go back in time and look at the president's schedule to see if we missed anything. Let's see. When we last touched base with him, he is over in Scotland, and that was only open to the out-of-town travel pool. He was at a golf club, apparently his own golf club. And then yesterday at 2:36, which was 7:36 p.m. local, they called a lid on it, meaning they sealed everything down at the Trump's International Golf Links, Aberdeen. Today, 12:45 a.m., which was overnight, he is apparently going to wait a minute, hold on. 5:45 a.m. local, he's going to play golf, which is at 12:45 a.m. East Coast time. Then he's going to participate in a grand ceremony at the International Golf Links in Aberdeen, and you can find out full details and text of the speech from the president's website, the whitehouse.gov. And then he's going to depart at 11 a.m., which he's already departed, which was 4 p.m. local, and headed back. He'll arrive back here in Maryland at 6 o'clock and be shuffled over to the White House at 7:20, where they will call a lid on it. I will probably see a video tonight from my buddy Penguin 6 fielding questions from the White House lawn. I encourage everybody to go over and find Penguin 6. You can get not only some good information, but it gives you an inside look of Washington, D.C., and sometimes see how the sausage is made. We go to NBC4 Washington, and we see what to know today. The Trump administration proposed revoking the scientific finding that greenhouse gases endanger public health. Okay. And U.S. and China discussed extending a tariff truce. Negotiators said both sides concluded talks in Sweden. Trump ended his trip to Scotland, where he met with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, I'm probably pronouncing that one wrong, and reached a trade framework for tariffs between the U.S. and European countries, 27 member countries. Trump and Starmer discussed doing more to feed the starving population in Gaza in a sign of recalibration of the U.S. policy, suggests that Israel has a lot of responsibility for what's happening. You think? The House Oversight Committee rejects Janine Maxwell's request for immunity in exchange for her testimony. Good. That was today at 2:13. Renaming the Kennedy Center for Donald and Melania Trump would violate the law that created it. House Republicans proposed naming the Kennedy Center after President Trump and its opera house after First Lady Melania, but that would violate the law by which the Kennedy Center was created, according to sources familiar with the issue. Okay, well, why do we need to rename it? Just let it be. China believes tariff truce will be extended, according to the U.S. Democrats warn Epstein is a distraction from Trump's unpopular big bill. Well, we talked about this. Democrat leaders can't stop talking about the releasing of the files. The issue has driven a wedge between Trump and his, quote, MAGA base and been a nagging nuisance for the GOP for weeks. But while most Democrats think it's a win-win for the party to keep a divisive issue for Republicans at the foremost, not all agree. Some Democrats say that this is an unwelcome distraction, diverting attention away from his big, beautiful bill, which they warn will cause millions of Americans to lose health care and food assistance. And we discussed this. EPA moves to repeal findings that underpins current limits on greenhouse gas. House Republican campaign arm urges member to sell our wins during break. I guess they're talking. Oh, they're on break right now, so I guess they're back politicking. Okay, great. And Trump comes back 2 hours ago. He left Scotland, coming back home. And Republican bills. Now here, this was a conspiracy theory. Remember, this was a big conspiracy theory. They don't do weather modification. Well, now we're pushing a bill to stop the government from doing weather modification. I thought it didn't happen. Most Americans disapprove of Israel's military action in Gaza, according to new polls. And Trump has condemned the New York shooting as a senseless act of violence. Let's see. The Senate Armed Service Committee is to be briefed on the U.S. military strike. And Justice Department files misconduct complaint against a judge in key deportation cases. And let's see. Federal Reserve likely stand pat on rates this week, deepening the gulf between Powell and Trump. And then, of course, the headline of the morning was Trump opened a new golf course in Scotland. That's your daily dose of what's going on in Washington. Let's take a look at the radar and some of the warnings that are in effect. Currently looking at the radar in the lower 48. Don't really see anything significant. What is this little yellow blob right there? Severe thunderstorm warning. Okay, it's a little, oh, I see. We zoom in. It's this teeny tiny little cell. Where's that at? That's just Minnesota? Yeah. All right, there's a teeny tiny, is it? No, it's not Minnesota. It's Iowa. There's a teeny tiny little cell there in Iowa that's got some attention. And we see back over southern Dakota, southwest Dakota, extending into Cheyenne. There's a small storm, but they look for that to grow. Watch this front here. It's not getting enough traction off the Atlantic coast because of the dust flowing currently from the Sierra Desert. Hop down and look at radar in Australia and see, well, currently it's a little bit overcast on the New South Wales, down on the beaches, extending pretty much all New South Wales with spotty showers. Adelaide, you've got some spotty showers. Over the Gold Coast, Brisbane, that's what I was trying to say. Some spotty shores coming inland later today. There's a cell producing a little bit of precipitation over Catherine in the Northern Territory. And if we go over on the West Coast, we see there's kind of a small cell on Exmouth. It's an interesting shape to the radar because it shapes the exact tip of Exmouth. Okay, interesting. All right, let's move on to the next one because we are running short on time. Well, let's go make sure nothing too major is happening up in Alaska. We don't want to leave our friends out there. And it is raining pretty heavily in the northern part of Alaska, with some storms that'll be coming across the islands to the mainland later today. All right, zoom out, and I didn't really give the UK any weather today. Sorry, UK. Let's look at some weather. We just looked at radar. This is the same thing we were just talking about. So pretty much no difference. Running short on time, so I'm not going to click and point, but the radar is international radar. Looks good. It'll zoom into, we'll go to our weather warnings. I encourage everybody to have a weather radio, but you can also go to Weather Warn and see different types of notifications that are posted. Georgia has a flood advisory. That heat advisory. We haven't talked about that yet. Kansas and New England? No, it's not New England. New Mexico? Good Lord. Now I'm having a brain cramp. Phillips County, Osborne. Heat index may be up to 109 degrees. Nebraska and Missouri. Good Lord. Brain cramp. I haven't had all my Mountain Dew today. All right, let's see. Special weather statements down in the coastal section of Georgia. That's probably going to be for storms coming inshore. Heat advisories up in Pennsylvania. Florida, Florida, you have had some extreme temperatures over the past few days, so you've got several weather statements issued about that, as well as heat advisories, and that is going to continue. Maine, New Hampshire is going to extend probably most of today. You might get a little break with cooling tonight, but it's going to be a pretty hot day for the next couple days, so just bear with it. Cold front is coming, and the heat advisory is extended much of the mid-Atlantic, Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, into the south, in south northeast in Kentucky, Ohio, mid-Atlantic region, Indiana, all heat advisories with an air quality alert in Ohio. And the Carolinas, in addition to the heat, you can see some flooding in southern Carolina. So everybody pretty much today in the south, it's going to be a hot day. We're going to talk about that here in just a second. Let's take a look at real-time lightning and see what's going on right now. That one cell up there does look to be pretty strong that we zoomed in on, but there's not a whole lot of electrical activity in that cell. So up in the Dakotas, Sioux Falls, Rapid City, but we jump down here and we get to the south. Well, let's not forget about north of Albuquerque. That's a pretty good sized cell right there, just north of Albuquerque with some electrical activity. But we go down here into the south, and we start to see from Arkansas all the way across over to the Outer Banks. Those storms are coming inland and up from the Gulf, and it's producing a lot of lightning in the Gulf Coast of Florida, extending up into the southern section of Georgia. There's also a good-sized storm in Hattiesburg. Look over on the Outer Banks, and they're getting peppered right now. Pretty much you can look at severe storms coming inland from the Carolina coast, from the North Carolina, South Carolina border, pretty much up to just south of the Virginia border with the Carolinas. It's extending inland to Charlotte, and there's quite a bit of electrical activity. If we look offshore, we see that front there. It's still churning and got a little bit of power. It hasn't been killed by the dust just quite yet. You can see we're not looking right now at the dust, but you can actually see the dampening of the electrical activity that's not here associated with these other storms because of, you'll see it in another image, the dust that's coming across and through to the Gulf of America. We'll zoom out and go down to Australia and see if there's any lightning activity there. And I do not see any lightning or electrical activity currently in Australia. Let's take a quick look and see where power is out right now in the United States. And currently greater than 10,000 in California. Make sure I didn't mute myself again. I keep pushing the wrong button. I need more Mountain Dew. All right. We look and see in California, 12,373 are without power, and looks to be pretty much spread throughout the state. I really don't see, maybe in Glenn County, but really it looks to be pretty consistently spread throughout the state. So don't see any one particular area of trouble there. Jump up to Minnesota and we see around the Great Lakes, in Houston, Fillmore County, extending up into Ramsey and Washington County. There are several thousand people without power in Minnesota. All right, let's jump to the next thing here. Our current temperatures. We've talked about the heat. Let's explore a little bit of what the heat is. Well, currently Atlanta, it's 93. Tampa, you're 91. Down in Key West, on the beach, you're in the sunny 80s. New Orleans, 90. Houston, 95. 103 in Phoenix, 98 in Las Vegas. It's hot over there. 95 in Kansas. Omaha, you're 93. Bismarck, you're cool at 77. But Seattle is even cooler at 72. We go over to the East Coast, and we see up in Burlington, 83. Boston, 95. New York, you're sweating it out at 96 degrees right now. That is definitely code orange. Washington, D.C., 94 degrees. 89 Virginia Beach, and it's pretty much in the 90s all along the Atlantic seaboard. 91 in Louisville. In Knoxville, it's also 90 degrees. We'll go down to Australia. I understand that they're having some cold fronts down there, according to my newfound friends in Australia. And so let's see. Cairns is currently 69. Go down to Brisbane, 55 degrees. Sydney, 53. Melbourne, 45 currently. Perth, 46. And I can never pronounce it right. Canberra is 53. Port Hedland, 59, Broome 61, and Darwin 76, with Alex Springs being the chilliest spot right now at 46 degrees. But fear not, those of us in the lower 48, the heat is with us, and we pretty much are seeing a lot of code orange, code red today in the United States. And if you look at purple, if you look at Florida, look at all that purple in Florida. Pretty much all of Florida, from southeast Georgia all the way down to almost Miami, is a code purple. Or magenta, which is extremely rare or long duration extreme heat. There's not going to be any overnight relief. Anybody that doesn't have proper cooling and hydration needs to be prepared. All right, so we look and see pretty much it's extending. The only area getting a break in the mid-Atlantic or the southeastern region is probably the Appalachian Mountains. They're still a code orange, but that code red pretty much takes up most of the East Coast from Boston, like we said, all the way down almost to Miami, inland past the Mississippi over into Missouri and even parts of Colorado, extending down to Arkansas, Texas, and of course, all of Louisiana, Alabama, and Georgia. So, with some parts of Georgia being a code magenta. I keep saying code purple. But at any rate, until that cold front finally gets to come down and through, we're going to see this heat, and it's going to extend all the way down to the deep south, even to the Keys over the next couple of days. So we'll just make sure you're hydrated, have your weather radio, be weather aware, and always be alert to your surroundings. We look at the current wind conditions with our AI-assisted big, beautiful, blue, round, perfect globe. You see most of the country, lower 48 at least, there's not much wind activity. There's a slight breeze. This is what's causing the heat to just feel stagnant. There's a slight breeze coming out of the Gulf, but really, there's not much wind to be reported in the lower 48. Alaska, you've got a spinning front offshore, but it's not really extending inland, so you're not having much of a break with winds either. Let's look down in Australia and see what their winds are. And then fairly breezy day with a front coming off of the shore going from the south to the west. It's bringing a little bit of an inland breeze, but for the most part, they're not a very breezy day today. We zoom out and look over into the Pacific, and you can kind of see the formation of those cells off of the Hawaii coast. Well, it's way off the Hawaii coast, but they don't really have a lot of energy. They're still spinning though, but they expect that is not really going to affect anything. Just stay out to sea. So, all right. I'm trying to get much as I can in today since I babbled so much. I apologize, guys. I probably shouldn't have done that. All right. So we look at current air quality conditions. Well, pretty much all of New England, down to the Chesapeake. Well, it's code yellow. Code red if you're up at the top of the border there in Minnesota, Wisconsin, if you're bordering Canadian territory. Well, it's probably a fire from the smoke. Code red days, unhealthy air quality days. So be aware. And if you look out towards Salt Lake City, and we see there's also a weather alert for poor air conditions at this time. And we will look at the bigger picture of this. First, let's look at the fires. We talk about the fires every day, and can you imagine fighting a forest fire in this heat? Whew, I can tell you it is not fun. We see pretty much all the fires are still out in the west. Doesn't look like there's a whole lot of change. We've been worried about that fire zone, and they have several fires that have broken out. I haven't received any reports of anything too major. I mean, what do you call major? I mean, 21,146. That's kind of major, but according to the National Forestry Service, that's not. So all the little red dots, well, it's where the satellite has seen something, but it has not been confirmed. Let's see. This doesn't cover Australia now. All right, yeah, because, well, it's from the U.S. Forestry Service. Duh. Let's look at the air quality for the smoke conditions, if it'll draw, in the lower 48. And let me hit F5 and see if that helps anything. Otherwise, I got a big white screen. There we go. Those fires up in Canada are really causing a lot of smoke conditions throughout much of the Northeast, Boston, New England. We saw up there where it was a code yellow day, code red day up there at the Canadian border where the most smoke is coming out. The smoke from the west is in that little front and moving aloft, going up as high as Chicago and then going eastward, but it's merging with the smoke from Canada and making an even bigger mess. Look at this is the AI generated IQ Air. We talked about this, and you see all that dust coming aloft. It's basically covering the Atlantic seaboard all the way up to Nova Scotia even, and coming inland to the Gulf of America, where it's just being pushed all the way up to meet with that smoke, make some nice dusty, smoky conditions. But if you'll notice, that is also dampening the tropical fronts that can cause hurricanes because they can't build the electricity and energy needed to turn into tropical storms. That's continuing for another couple days, and in the 10-day outlook, it could possibly change and we can see some activity. But currently, with that dust coming out of the Sahara over into the lower 48, it's killing the possibilities. There might be something further up in the mid-Atlantic pushing over towards Bermuda later today, but currently, or not today, this week, but currently nothing to be concerned of. We looked into Australia and see you have 3 reported fires that are burning pretty good to the east over towards Brisbane. Darwin and areas are getting one fire over on the east coast, one on the west, with one in the Northern Territory and one way up there. I'm not familiar yet. That's all those areas are getting these. I'm really better with my geography. I probably could use my geology too. Trying to figure out, why do you guys want to hear me ramble every day? I'm having a bad day today. All right, let's look at the last earthquakes. The last one was 52 minutes ago. Goodness gracious. It was a 6.6 in the Fiji Islands. Prior to that, in Myanmar, there's a 4.6 3 hours ago. France had a 3.4 almost 8 hours ago. They had one prior to that, about an hour earlier. at the France-Germany border of a 2.5. So Philippines have had several 4.2 and 3 earthquakes, and Western Afghanistan had a 4.3. And yesterday in the Mercury Islands, there was a 6.9. Hey, Wendell, well, we missed you. We're glad you're back, Wendell. All right, those are the latest earthquakes. We'll look at the map for the USGS and see that the latest one that they're reporting is a 2.7 in Alaska, and that was a 2.6 in California for the one, or then prior to that was the Fiji one at 6.6. You see that there's been a small one up in Alaska as well, and it was a 2.7, and that was, how long ago was that one? That was just about an hour ago, 1406. Yeah, about an hour ago in Alaska. So it's the most recent earthquake. Down here in the Fiji Islands was the other large one. And then you look back over to the California coast, you see, let me bring it over here. You see the, what was this one? A 2.6. They're still concerned about those volcanic areas off the coast of Oregon. But remember, when we reported on this, they're so far offland and so far deep, it technically shouldn't concern anyone. Now, there has been a lot of speculation going around the internet about Yellowstone, animals evacuating. Please pay attention. Some of those videos are AI, and there is no unusual animal activity per scientist, but still, the conspiracy theorists insist that it's going to blow, and there are several maps out that shows if it did blow, some of the areas that could have some serious problems with it. I haven't highlighted it because, well, it's kind of been, I don't want to say fake news, but it's been fake news. Let's see. Nothing. What was this one? A 4.8 44 minutes ago. Okay, well, this was in Australia. This didn't make the other one. And it is just to the northeast of Perth, a 4.8 earthquake. All right, that's interesting. I don't know why it didn't show up on the other one. And we talked about one in New Zealand as well. That was, how long ago was that one? It was a 4.1 in New Zealand 49 minutes ago. This is giving us more information. Up in the South Pacific, there was one that was a 4.9, no tsunami warning activation. The 6.6 in the Fiji Islands, it also didn't generate any tsunami warnings. So, okay, there's your most recent ones. I don't have any reports of any volcanic activity, so that's good news. And Wendell, yeah, I've been watching Yellowstone for a while too, and I've come to the conclusion a lot of those videos are AI, so I'm not that concerned about it at the moment. I mean, as with anything with nature, it's unpredictable, but from everything I can tell, it's a lot of people just beating the drum to scare people, and I'm not about that here on my channel. So I'd rather you be informed and educated. So high winds off the Gold Coast in Queensland. That was reported 4 minutes ago, but it's been ongoing for the past 5 hours. A landslide in Germany. Italy is having wildfires. Okay, well, 7 minutes ago, they did actually issue a tsunami warning. And an earthquake of primary 6.5 has issued a tsunami statement for, let's see, this would be British Columbia, Washington, Oregon, and California. This was an hour ago, but it was updated 8 minutes ago. Let's see what the update said, because the prior one didn't say there was anyone. And earthquake, primary tsunami information been updated. No tsunami is expected. Repeat, no tsunami is expected. Okay, so they initially came out with one, then they changed it to no tsunami is expected. Very good news. All right. Yeah, because I was thinking we didn't see it in the other one, so it kind of freaked me out that it was on this one. But as you know, if you've been watching my channel for a while, sometimes you'll get an update on one thing and another page you'll turn to and it'll have more updated information. such is the internet. Let's see. We got wildfires and severe weather all across Asia. In Sydney, New South Wales, this was 7 days ago, but was updated several hours ago for high winds and volcanic activity, possible eruption in Japan. That was updated 36 minutes ago. And the Hawaiian Islands were bracing for a tsunami, but it turned out to be nothing. Air quality in Canada is horrible. And flooding in Asia with severe storms causing landslides and all kinds of problems. We'll go down here and look at Australia and see if there's any, whoa, a little too far inland there. If there's anything, these are high winds. These were reported 6 hours ago in Queensland with the wildfire. And then up in Numbara Mission, they have had reports of a wildfire up there. All right. In Northern Territory, that was fire in Northern Territory, a wildfire there causing the smoke conditions. And there's several other small wildfires. Nothing offshore for you guys coming inland. So that is some good news, even though probably would want the rains. All right. So let's jump ahead because we've only got a few minutes left here and go to the events list. So we didn't get to this yesterday. Really going to rush through it today, but we'll try and get it. Let's see. Updated yesterday, India, an elephant and human conflict. They're monitoring after 2 dead in attacks in India of an elephant. Okay. Canadians are worried about a grisly attack that leaves a man with significant injuries. Well, in Indonesia, some type of pig farm is infected with swine flu. And they look at epidemics, monkeypox in Ghana, dengue fever in Vietnam, and Nigeria has malaria. Those are all problems that are being monitored. Italy, third West Nile victim has been identified. Cambodia, well, there are reports of the 14th case of H5N1 bird flu. Ukraine, Moscow sends dozens of water trucks to occupy Donetsk amid shortage. Okay. And Russian Federation is being attacked with their airlines basically are being hacked and attacked in Russia. And let's see, nothing new there. And 17 dead in a bar shooting in Ecuador. All right. We talked about the police shooting. Police search for a suspect of killing a couple hiking with their 2-year-old in an Arkansas park. I haven't seen that headline. Turks and Caicos Islands. Police say 3 were killed, 10 injured in the first mass shooting. All right. And Reno, we talked about the Atlanta mass shooting. Thailand, 6 killed in a Bangkok market after gunman opens fires. St. Vincent and Grenadines fishing vessel comes under gunfire, and 11 people were injured in the knife attack. We talked about that yesterday. Serial demonstrations, Yemen and United Kingdom, migrant protests in the UK. People chant, "We want our country back." Well, you're going to have to take it back because you gave it up. Congo, well, you're having a church attack by rebels. Pakistan, protesters are fired upon with 3 killed and 21 killed in an attack on East Congo. I'll go back to a minute for these serial demonstrations. They're also missing some. And I've watched another channel, and there's some power struggle currently going on in Ukraine, and the United States have been accused of causing demonstrations and protests at key locations that are not currently at war, or there's really not an active battlefront with Russia trying to upset the power of Ukraine. The CIA is being blamed for that. Whether or not they're doing it or not, but that is a underreported incident. And yeah, United Kingdom, people chanting, "Take their country back." That is growing. So, but UK kind of did it to yourself. Close those borders. Ukraine, a plague of locusts has descended upon them. Well, that could be a sign. I'm sure I'll see somebody talking about that tonight. 3 killed after a tanker collides with in an asphalt plant in India with an explosion. That was over the weekend. And 4 prisoners injured in a gas explosion in Russia's Volgograd region. And 2 Massachusetts women killed in a camper explosion in Maine's Old Orchard. Hadn't heard that. 6 firefighters injured in the Middle Village strip mall fire. I did read about that. 3 taken to a hospital after a residential fire in Singapore. 1 killed in West Side apartment Chicago fire, according to Chicago PD. Australia, a woman aged 102 has passed away and perished in a house fire in Melbourne. And Avon, a house fire, killed the man in the United States. Heartbreak as Victorian building is engulfed in flames over the weekend in the UK. Fire in the French holiday home for adults with a disability kills 4 over the weekend. And they rush to attack a large fire at Yvel in the U Kingdom in Europe over the weekend. Vietnam, 2 dead in a house fire in southern Vietnam's Ho Chi Minh City over the weekend. Zimbabwe, 8 home industry is gutted by fire, quote, again in Africa. We talked about a lot of the outdoor fires in Portugal, Turkey, Bulgaria, Russia, Spain. And then we've talked about earthquakes and landslide. China, 4 dead over the weekend with 8 missing after a landslide. Still monitoring the Spur volcano for there's some activity as long as the Great Sitkin and the Kilauea, but nothing major, but there has been some activity. And we talked about flooding. And let's see, Egypt, power outages hits the Gaza and other governance amid a searing heat wave. And a dollar store roof collapse kills a 68-year-old man in the United States. I haven't seen that headline. And let's see, 2 dead after a stampede in India. Finland, a 3rd teenager, has died in a drowning over the weekend. 7 dead, several injured in the stampede in India. And Denver Airport, we talked about the plane landing that had the issue and was on fire. And India had a fire in Canwaris that killed 5 killed, 23 injured in a bus truck collision. Goodness gracious. And another accident off the Ivory Coast has injured or killed at least 16. Peru, 7 killed in a road accident in central Peru. And off the Ivory Coast, those 16 people perished. Estonia, 29 people were injured in an express bus crash. Pickup truck carrying 25 people plunges into a canal, leaving 6 dead in India. 15 killed, dozen injured in a roadway crash on the motorway in Pakistan over the weekend. And in Charlotte, North Carolina, over the weekend, 6 dead, 1 injured on 485. I didn't hear about that one either. Over the weekend, Germany, 3 people killed after a train derailed. And in Pakistan, Jaffar's Express derails due to explosions near Sheikhpur. All right, well, we have run out of time. I'm sitting here babbling. We got most things in today. We didn't get through everything. We didn't get to talk about the officers down, which I want to talk about. We'll get to, and then we will update with the firefighter's fatality out of Connecticut over the weekend. But until we meet again, we will look here at Bitdefender and look at it and see, well, what's new? The United States is under attack from Asia. And you can see there in red, it's attacks. Yellow is infections, and little white dots are spam. So you can see the United States is perfectly situated to be hacked in, well, have all kinds of cyber threats. So, all right, well, it's top of the hour, 3 o'clock here on the East Coast, and it's 6 o'clock in Sydney. Brain cramp. And I want to remind everybody that I will be back tomorrow afternoon, same time, same location. I want to thank Yerg's Radio, Dare Media, Radio X for allowing me to tickle your ears. But you can always come over and find us. And I please encourage you to, because I really need the subscribers. We're trying to get monetized. You can search out the Sportcat shows on YouTube, or you can just look at the Para, R, normal, 3 words, guys with a Z. We're kind of unique in our spelling there. And you can check us out. We got plenty of videos. Wednesday nights, we do a paranormal show that can be heard on all these stations you're listening to right now. And then we also have a CBS Big Brother hit reality TV show called The Big Chat, where we discuss season 27. They're in the middle of season 27, week 3. So we talk about that on our show on The Big Chat. Make sure to check those all out. And if you're really bored, you can listen to me on the Thin Line Rock stations Tuesday and Thursday. I'm playing some hits and spinning some records from noon till 3 local Eastern Standard Time. Everybody have a great day, and we will see you soon. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Please hit that thumbs up button and remember to subscribe. I will see you tomorrow, same time, same bat location. Until then, Sportcat is out of here.